Next speaker is Rita Clifton, chairman of Populus, former chairman of Interbrand. Rita's worked with the widest range of organizations over time, from startups to global corporations and from commerce to not-for-profit. She's a regular commentator in the media, and her writing has included the book The Future of Brands and the Economist book Brands and Branding. Her non-executive board roles include, I should say, Dixon's Retail PLC, Bupa, the private healthcare provider whose annual report out today shows many of the issues that have already been raised in this session. And Rita was appointed president of the Market Research Society in 2010. So quite a slipstream of achievement for your next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, Rita Clifton.
Thank you very much indeed, Michael. I was asked to speak about health and well-being and its connection with brands and branding and indeed retail today, and it prompted me to think about a lot of things, not least of which is I could really do with a bikini body by this time next week. So I'll see how I get on with that, I think. But it also reminded me of some research that we did at Interbrand around the time of the millennium, which is, I guess, another rather important time for GB and a rather momentous time at that. And at that time, we did 25 visions of the future of brands, and we talked to the most extraordinary variety of people around the world, from the head of Procter & Gamble to Howard Schultz of Starbucks, Spike Lee, the film director, the head of Oxfam, and indeed Deepak Chopra, who is the health and well-being guru to the stars. Now, what was interesting there, when we asked them about what they felt the major trends were, and also the categories in the future that were likely to yield the world's most valuable brands in that future, there was a remarkable consensus. And that consensus included, for example, biotechnology, new lives for the new old, adventurous travel and leisure, personal information management in such an overcrowded, over-communicated age, and also health and well-being. Now, that was 98, 99, leading up to the millennium at that study. And so what's happened in the 12 and a half years, that's halfway through the 25 years since then. And it is very interesting, because if you look at the top 100, Coca-Cola's still up there, but the top 10 is now dominated by technology brands. And of course, Google, which is in 98, 99, was just a twinkle in a boy's bedroom, and of course then went to a top 10 global brand. But actually in that top 100, there are no health and well-being brands. And also actually no real new brands for the new old and so on. So an astonishing variety of sectors, but no brand that you would say really leads in the health and well-being sector. So just wanted to think about why that was the case, and whether or not brands in this sector could learn something from some of the other world-leading brands on how to build one. And a clue might lie in how you value brands. I mean, first of all, of course, you do the financial analysis, the financial projections. You then look at what the role of brand is. Now, some categories have a natural advantage. Luxury, for example, but also, frankly, health and well-being ought to have a natural advantage because people are very interested in that area. And then the third part of the equation is the strength of brand. Now, that is the thing that absolutely you can control, and that, in my view, lies the key to why maybe there aren't brands in this sector, because these are the key characteristics of the most valuable and successful brands. Number one, clarity of what you stand for, and not only what you stand for in your category, but also what you stand for to consumers, to people, and also to their lives. Consistency about how that shows up right across the customer experience. How do you answer the phone? How do you serve people? How do you follow up? But also actually internal to external consistency. And that's just a way of saying that it's no use pretending you're a smiley, healthy organization on the outside if you're an axe-murdering culture on the inside. So if you're going to be a brand that's about health and well-being, you should make sure your people are living that and delivering that as well. And also, as far as leadership is concerned, this is about innovation, it's about restlessness, it's about setting the agenda, and also setting the agenda with people in their lives, as opposed, again, to within a product category. Now, sometimes working in branding, I can say, is a little bit frustrating. And it's frustrating because when you can demonstrate beyond all doubt that the brand is the most important and sustainable asset any organization has got, because people have a nasty habit of dying. Also, shops, stores, buildings dilapidate, products and services become obsolete, but the thing that lives on is the brand if you look after it properly. And this is sometimes the problem, which is that sometimes people over-concentrate on the top bit, the name and the logo and the packaging, even the cardboard in shops. But it's the substance, of course, that really make brands work properly, and the visual bit just brings that to life. And this is what the world's leading companies, the world's leading brands are doing. They've moved from being just, we're a business, very complicated business, and by the way, let's get the marketing people to do a bit of advertising and packaging, to actually making the brand the alter ego business strategy, a way of stitching in your competitive branded advantage through everything you do, again, from the way you answer the phone to the way that you recruit and train and develop people. The brand is the organizing idea. And this is the right torture test. What does the brand stand for? How does that show up in your people and their behavior? How does it show up in terms of your products and services? And what about your environments? If I had £1 or $1 or €1 every time I went into an organization, they swore to me that one of their core values was openness and transparency. And I go into their offices, and it's dark, long corridors with individual offices going off there. You have to live it, and it has to show up through everything you do. Now, some of the best examples, not surprisingly, are those in the top risers over the last year or so in those most valuable brands. And Apple, of course, has to be the most overused case study. But there's a very good reason for that, because it absolutely lives the characteristics. It's unbelievably clear about what it stands for. It's about humanizing technology. It's about being different. And that difference shows up in everything they do, from the products and services that look as though they're made for human beings. You don't just want to use Apple products, you want to lick them as well. As far as stores are concerned, they're not just designed by any old store designer. They look as though they're like hotel concierge services. They look after people. They're not just flogging stuff and cardboard with special offers. And of course, they've managed to reposition nerds as geniuses. Amazing. As far as Amazon is concerned, again, if anyone had told you 15 years ago that actually a retailer that had no shops, you didn't meet anybody, you only connected with them over the internet, they were going to be one of the world's leading retail brands, you'd have laughed at them. Now, how have Amazon done that? Well, of course, they understand people and their concerns, so they get stuff to you really reliably and fast. That builds trust. And what's more, Amazon also speak to you like a human being. They remember what you like. They remember about your lives. They deliver to you. Their tone of voice really connects and feels very human. But above all, they're showing this leadership attitude, their ambition to be the Earth's most customer-centric organization. And of course, they understand people's lives in the round, their needs in the round, and that's not what's currently happening in the health and well-being sector, in my view, enough. And look, a British riser amongst the world's leading brands, Burberry must be scored for an Olympic achievement in brand reinvention and building. And what's interesting here is the clarity that came out of the Burberry brand. It's about selling British attitude all over the world. And we Brits can sometimes be so self-deprecating. It took an American chief executive to recognize that, and also then to exploit the brand on a world basis, but using this extraordinary British base attitude and talent. And what's more, showing real control, consistency and control by taking back the licenses of this brand. And again, sometimes the health and well-being sector can feel so fragmented and kind of out of management control. And showing leadership in innovation. So I don't know whether you were watching the Burberry catwalk, but just as the models were about to go out onto the stage the last time, people were tweeting the images. They called it the tweet walk, not just the catwalk. So this kind of excitement and innovation is something that maybe could be useful for the category, and indeed building the brand by showing British brands, young, groovy people, not just driving today's revenue. And what about the retail sector specifically? Well, the principles of strong brands absolutely apply, and these studies have been done in every category around the world. Now, in terms of the top 10 retail brands in the UK, the brand that we love to love and love to hate, I don't have time to talk about all of these here, but just to say that obviously Tesco is an extraordinarily successful brand because it's clear about what it stands for. There's no real mention of shops and stores and categories in its vision and promise. It's about creating value for customers to earn their lifetime loyalty. And also the leadership and innovation, not only in scale, but I don't know whether you've been to Seoul recently, but this is the underground, an underground station in Seoul whereby you have a virtual store and you can just order whatever you want and it gets delivered at home delivery, so you don't waste any time in delivery. Now again, Tesco brought all this together to deliver it for individuals, as opposed sometimes the health and well-being industries across many different categories maybe aren't doing that, with some very honourable exceptions that we've just heard about. And other interesting lessons is also about being where people are, not just getting people to come to your shops. So this is Topshop, for example, in New York, going out and taking the Topshop concept to people, as opposed to trying to drag them into stores where they don't want to go. And of course, another one to watch, a great British-based retail success story, Jack Wills. Clear about what it stands for. You may like it or you may not, but it's absolutely about the university lifestyle. And of course, the staff live the brand because the staff are the brand, and what's more, the staff are often the customers, all their friends and colleagues are too. And very interesting how they really live this, their British university lifestyle across the piece and choose where they put their shops. Martha's Vineyard, for example, just in really interesting places in the States. Now, there are some common themes emerging from what's happening in the retail sector. Omnichannel, I know you'll hear a lot about that later on. Authenticity, you have to live it and do it, I mentioned that. Ambitious, more ambitions globally for the retail sector, and we've heard a lot about that earlier, as well as local tailoring. And also multi-sensory. Now, this is absolutely a theme that health and well-being lends itself beautifully to. So sometimes, again in the retail sector, even indeed in the product category sector, it's tempting just to be two dimensions, cardboard and packaging, just visual identity and graphics. But if you just look at the right-hand side here, engaging the senses is a way of engaging people and also developing connections with people. That's how you engage the emotions and also the whole human being. And sometimes that's not done well enough. What about smells and senses and touch and so on? And in the health and well-being sector, there is so much opportunity to engage people. The health and well-being part of their lives is extremely important. Making it alive for them is critically important as well. So lots of drivers that we already heard about, a real opportunity in the sector between science and consumer brands and retail brands and branding. And also many important, interesting trends that any strong brand based in the sector can really deal with. I mean, fascinating things like eternal youthfulness, something that I have a particular personal interest in at the moment. But the anti-aging industry is set to grow to over 290 million by 2020, and an increasingly inside-out approach. Consumer education, we've seen a lot of that from NGOs, from brands, and indeed from government. But here's an example of the info ladies in Bangladesh who go around villages on bicycles with netbooks and also with mobile phones to deliver medical advice and so on. There's a third trend, which is about health is entertainment. So 22.5 million copies of We Fit sold in the first 2 years of its life. And embarrassing bodies, I don't know whether you've seen this programme. I wouldn't blame you if you just turned it off. This is about people going to their general practitioners with weird and wonderful complaints. And it's all televised. I mean, it's just extraordinary where people can get their amusement from these days. I don't know why people do it, but it's compelling television nevertheless. And a well-known, well-recognised trend, which is about e-health and patient power. Over 5,000 medical iPhone apps available. Isn't that just extraordinary? Google Healthcare, 4 out of 5 internet searches have searched for health advice online. That's how interested people are in this. That's how much opportunity there is. And what about a final trend, which is about emotional well-being, an antidote to stressed out and pressurized lives? At one end, of course, is recognizing depression. At the other end is a happiness index, whereby we're going to measure the success of our nations by new indices. Now, there are some brands, some that we've already heard about from this morning. There are some brands who are really getting to grips with this agenda and opportunity. I'm proud to be associated with Bupa. This is just an example of a new store. It's the Bupa Health Experience store in Brisbane. And it's very interesting. It literally is redefining retail therapy, if I can put it that way. So you can go to these stores, you get eye tests, understand your real health age, you get your ideal heart rate sorted out, health products. There's a bit of gamification of health and well-being, asking questions, quizzes, getting engaged, and dare I say it, health can be fun and engaging as well as good science, and again, engage the whole person. So, lots to play for in my view, and the challenge, if we all want to succeed in this future, how clear are you about what you stand for? How are you connecting with the whole of customers in their lives, not just by category and fragmentation? How consistently are you making that show up from the way you answer the phone, the way you serve customers and recognize them, and also the way you treat your own people and staff, and also how much leadership are you showing in terms of innovation, setting the agenda, and restlessness. And thank you for listening.